Honey, this show should not have been called The Hunting Wives. It should have been called The Hunting Hoes. Okay. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So I wanted to hop on here and do a brief recap of The Hunting Wives season 1. This show, okay, so this show came out a couple of weeks ago, right? And I watched the first episode and I immediately was like, nope, this is not for me because it just started off doing too much. Okay. This show to me is one of the most over sexualized shows I have seen in a while. And that is saying a lot, seeing as though I watched P Valley, Game of Thrones, Power, those type of shows. But it was just a bit much. And if I'm being honest, I felt like it was unnecessary because they have such great actors in this show. But nonetheless, let's get to it. So first things first, honey, the wiggery in this movie, the wiggery on these two was dry and dusty. Okay, do better. It was completely wrong, completely out of order, and it was sending me. Every time I saw these two on the screen, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot take it. Nonetheless, the show is centered around Margot in the green dress, right? She is one of the main characters, the central character. She is like the middleman of the wives. Like she is the go-to girl. She knows everybody. She lives this lavish lifestyle. Her girlfriends that she surrounds herself with seemingly live the same way that she does. And honey, when I tell you, it's just a whole bunch of foo la la. It is indeed. Okay. Sophie is also one of the main characters. So her and her husband are new to Texas. They just moved from Boston, I believe. And, she used to deal in politics when she was back home. Unfortunately, Sophie has a drinking problem that ultimately caused her to commit vehicular homicide. You know what I'm saying? Like she actually, sent someone to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord because she was drinking and driving. And, we get a little bit more information about that in the show. But, honey, when I tell you her first meeting with Margot, that is one of the reasons why I was like, okay, this is not going to be my type of show. Margot literally like got nude in front of her, basically. And I'm like, this how you greet people? Like, girl, you just meeting this woman for the first time and she already seen your tatas. Like, okay, are you kidding me? But Sophie, she she did a lot of stuff. Like she just dove in nose deep. Like she was no holds barred when she fell into the group with these ladies. It was a lot. It was quite a lot. Okay.
It's nice to meet you too. Oh, this is my wife, Sophie.
Hi. So, Sophie and I, we go way back.
Nice to see you again.
So Sophie and Margot hit it off. Margot invites Sophie to meet her friends, and this is Jill and Callie. I forget the other two young ladies' names, but we get more from Jill and Callie throughout the show. And this is Margot's clique. These are like her girls. These are low key mean girls, aka you can't sit with us type of girls. Okay, they do give off that type of vibe. You know what I'm saying? But they are somewhat welcoming to Sophie, except Callie, and we kind of get a glimpse of why Callie really wasn't feeling Sophie at first because Margot basically had her eye on Sophie. Okay. Margot, she just gives off that energy and that people want to be around, right? But one of the things outside of the fact I didn't like her introduction to Sophie, like, girl, whatever. But what I also did not like, what turned me off from the show after I finished the first episode, I did not like the fact that they are romanticizing somewhat a relationship with an adult woman and a teenage boy. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if he's 18 or 19, he still has the word TEEN on the end of his age, and she has no BUSINESS messing with him at all. Okay. That really was the thing. I was like, you know what? I can't watch this show. This is not for me. And I did. I paused. I was like, you know what? Let me just watch some other stuff. So I went and, watched other shows and things like that. And I just went on ahead and I came back to this show. The best thing about streaming, honey, is that you can fast forward through things that you do not want to see. And trust me, for me, it was a lot of things in this show that I did not want to see. And again, it was just very over sexualized. And for me, it wasn't necessary because of the acting. They had really good actors. But Margot, she's having this affair with this teenage boy as well as women. And it's like, girl, are you confused or you just don't care? Okay. So Jill, she is the wife of a pastor. Her husband is the pastor of like this huge church in town, right? So everybody, they go to the church on Sunday. Sophie, she goes, with her husband and her son, and she ends up meeting Star. Star happens to be Abby's mom. Abby is the young lady that the show will be centered around once this young lady comes up, unalive. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody that sent her to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord, and everybody is trying to figure out who did it and why. But again, like I said, the friend group, they were definitely giving off mean vibes, especially Jill. Jill did not like Star because Jill did not like Star's daughter. Star's daughter, Abby, and Jill's son, who Margot was also sleeping with, they have a really tight bond in a relationship. And Jill, she just felt like, Abby was trying to trap her son. And I was like, honey, you have no idea. Okay. So here we have Abby. This is the young lady's death who the show will be centered around as well. And she's sitting here talking to a pulpit pimp youth pastor. Okay. Like this youth pastor was a whole alcoholic, honey. He was prying on these young girls, young girls who were vulnerable and seeking comfort in the word. Honey, around here kidnapping folks and everything. When I tell you the way his story developed and turned out, it was somewhat surprising. But you know what? It really was not, because the whole situation, the interaction between him and Abby, I knew something was up, but it was crazy. Like he was just doing too much. Everybody was doing too much. Okay.
Honey, you know I love you, right? I know I don't say it, but you know that I do.
So Margot had to let her boo thing Callie know that they needed to pause because her husband wants to run for governor. And she was just like, when you're running for that type of office, people are going to try to dig up anything and try to, use any and everything against you. So she's basically trying to wipe the slate clean and just, deal with her husband only from, whatever amount of time he's going to be running for governor. And honey, we already see that he has his hand in the honey pot, because she came home, Margot came home one day, and he's sitting in the jacuzzi with two women. Like, girl, they got a whole open marriage, which we do learn. Margot does say that her and her husband have an understanding that as long as they both bring women home and approve, it's okay for Margot to do her thing, the foo la la, and I guess it's okay for him to foo la la. But anyway, with him running for governor, Margot is just trying to make sure that she walks a straight line, honey, but it ain't really Callie she got to worry about. Is this fool brother of hers. So, honey, this is Margot's brother. I think his name was Cal. And when I tell you Cal was a trailer park trash mess, honey, he was a trailer park trash mess, baby, drugged out and everything. So she goes and dropped him 20 grand to keep him quiet for a year while her husband runs for governor. And I'm like, Margot, if your husband got this much money, he banking like that, all you got to offer your brother is 20 grand, because he about to go smoke it up. Like, girl, are you kidding me? But we didn't get a lot from him, but the moments that we did get from him in the show, I wish they had given us more, because honey, you could tell he knew all her tea and he would have spilled it at any moment for the right price. Okay. So these two deputies, we get quite a bit from them, more from the female deputy. She is in the center of trying to find out what happened to Abby and what is going on with all these girls that are coming up missing. And she also happens to be a victim of the pulpit pimp demon, honey. Okay, the youth pastor Pete, baby, he ends up popping her in her head because she is onto him. She ends up finding I guess this cabin or whatever where he is taking his victims that he's kidnapping. So she ultimately she is a victim of his, but she does survive. So we get to see her going through recovery and still trying to solve these crimes throughout the show. But honey, when I tell you it was Sheriff Johnny who did it for me, baby. Oh my God. Okay.
I've been dying to tell you, girl. It's juicy.
So honey, you mean to tell me that y'all got the best looking man on the show, the most handsome man? I'm talking about tall, fine, all of that, baby. He is double wristed. Okay. I'm talking about this man more double wristed than a resistance band in a workout. Okay. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. So this Sheriff Johnny is also Callie's husband. And honey, when I tell you that bedroom scene, I was like, you know what? Y'all are doing too much. So it's almost like they're each other's beard because Callie is sleeping with Margot. She's in love with Margot, and he clearly has a thing with one of his little deputies, this little boy, honey, that worked with him. We didn't get that much from them, but the interaction between the two of them, you could tell something was going on. And I'm like, so y'all each other's beard. Why do you have to be married? Like, what is wrong with you just going over and be with a woman and let him do his thing with these dudes? But honey, when I tell you I was not here for that at all, I was like, how y'all got the finest man on here being double wristed? Like, miss me with it. Okay.
Oh, you think I'm trying too hard?
No.
Oh, that's all right. You're right. I can keep it cash mode.
Me too. Except I think I'm gonna shave my legs tonight.
Ooh, fancy.
So here we are with Jill. And first of all, shout out to Jill, honey, because baby, I ain't seen Quinn since Scandal. Okay, if you know, you know. But Jill, for me, um, when it came to her son, Brad, again, Brad is the one that's dating Abby, the girl that comes up, unalived or whatever. But for me, when it comes to Jill and her son, Jill, to me, she had an affinity for her son that went beyond mothering. Okay. It was just really creepy to a certain extent. Like, I don't think it would have mattered who Abby was. You know, the mom basically made it seem like she didn't like Abby because she felt like Abby wasn't good enough for her son, like where Abby came from. Because Abby and her mom, they didn't have, money or whatnot. They weren't like an affluent family. But to me, it just seems like it wouldn't have mattered who Abby was or who the girl was, period. Like what background she came from, what pedigree, whether her family had money or not. It's just like Jill, to me, like no one was good enough for her son. And like I said, it was just like she just had an affinity for him that went beyond mothering. On the part when he got up from the dinner table and she like patted her cheek for him to give her a kiss on the cheek, but she turned around and kissed him on the lips. Like, girl, are you freaking kidding me? Like, honey, but I mean, quiet as it's kept, he do like to kiss grown women on the lips and in other places too. Okay. But anyway, so Jill and her husband, it's, you could tell that they don't like have a good relationship as far as their marriage. It's like she's married to him, he's the minister. Yeah, I got a wife, I got a child, whoop de whoop. It's almost like it's an image for him, as in most of the marriages on this show clearly are images. Okay. But it just seems like Jill invests all her time and energy into her son, and a lot of it, to me, it just seems to go beyond mothering. So, honey, Abby's body turns up, right? And, people are trying to figure out who will want to, send this girl to be on permanent vacation with the Lord. Like, what's going on? And, we get a moment that led up to this where we see her call. She ends up, Abby, she ends up calling Brad's mom. She calls Jill, and then she has a moment again with the youth pastor. And it kind of, you didn't know who did what to her. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like up in the air. But unfortunately, Sophie is the one that gets blamed for Abby's murder because Sophie's gun is the one that they find that was used in the murder. So, honey, we get a moment where Sophie is hanging out with Margot. Margot ends up calling her little young tenderoni over to the house, and he brings his little friend. He has a little black friend that he's been hanging with. And so I guess the little black guy, he thinks that since Margot is down for messing with a teenager, then so would Sophie. And he was like, I'm 18 or whatever. And Sophie was like, okay. But they end up drinking, they end up doing some drugs or whatever. And honey, when I tell you it goes awry, the whole night goes awry. Like, Sophie literally wakes up outside. Like, she has no idea what happened. And so she ultimately is arrested and blamed for what happened to Abby. And of course, she was like, I didn't even know that girl. Like, I just moved here. I have nothing against that young girl. Like, what would I look like wanted to harm her? So we get this whole scenario of trying to go down a rabbit hole of what happened to Abby and who did this to Abby. You know what I'm saying? And so many fingers are pointing at this person, and that person. But baby, when I tell you the bodies was just piling up, like, of course, here we have Abby's body. Then you got Abby mom done got bodies. Like, girl, are you freaking kidding me? And honey, they even sent Jill to be on a permanent vacation with her Lord and Savior, okay? I was like, you know what? This is absolutely crazy. I was not expecting Star or Jill to be unalived in this show. Like, I have so many thoughts. Like, it just really, really a lot of stuff. And I think they said that this show is based on a book, a novel, or something. But it's just so many things that absolutely just did not make sense to me at all in this show, including the fact that Margot is the one that ended up being the one that sent Abby to be with the Grim Reaper. Like, it absolutely made no sense to me at all. Like, Margot is literally in the middle of all of this. And to me, it made no sense for her to be the one that did that to Abby. It absolutely made no sense. Like, you mean to tell me you got all this money? You mean to tell me you couldn't offer this girl money? Like, that was your only option, was to get rid of her? It absolutely made no sense. Like, you put yourself in that situation to where you ended up getting pregnant by that teenage boy, and you had to terminate a pregnancy. And baby, when I tell you, when Margot told her husband that she had broke the rules and that she was dealing with Brad, I don't think, baby, when I tell you he slapped fire from Margot's face, oh my God, he slapped her so hard. And I don't even think it was the fact that she was sleeping with another dude. I think that it's the fact that she was sleeping with a little boy. I think her husband was like, are you freaking kidding? And then you got pregnant by him. Like, girl, trifling of all trifes. Okay. Margot ain't nothing but some dressed up trash. Okay. Margot ain't nothing but some dressed up trash who caught a lick and she took it. Okay. She got with her husband. He had all this money. And she basically was like, skedaddle to the trailer park. Like, I'm no longer going to be living here. I then came up. It is what it is. And to be honest with you, I'm not even mad at her. I ain't even mad at Margot for using what she got to get what she want. Okay.
You could be making a lot more money than what you're making up in here if you would just use what you got to get what you want and stop messing with this chump change.
But honey, sometimes using what you got ain't gonna always work in your favor. Cause baby, when I tell you her husband kicked her out the house, he was like, you get up out of here. He was so pissed at her. You know what I'm saying? And now she back over in the trailer park chilling with her brother or whatever. And I'm like, I think their closeness, even though her and her brother, they don't see eye to eye, I think their closeness comes from trauma, because we did get a little background of their growing up story. At one particular point of the season, we got to see how their upbringing was, or lack thereof. And they were both just scammers and hustlers. Okay, they literally were young kids in the streets just trying to make a way, pay rent, put food on their table, and things like that. So I think her and her brother just have a real close trauma bond. And, as much as she wants to kind of disassociate herself from that trailer park trash life, her brother is still there. And so she still has ties to it. And honey, when her husband kicked out of the house, that's the first place she went. Okay. Now, when it comes to Sophie and everything that Sophie went through, she brought a lot of that on herself. A lot of things that happened in this show happened because people chose lust over logic. Okay. They chose lust and temptation over logic. And Sophie did that to herself. Like, she went, like I said, she delved in head first when it came to Margot. She was instantly attracted to her. Like, she literally slept with Margot a couple of times, actually. And then you turned around and told your husband, like, girl, he already don't trust you behind the wheel with your kid. Now you around here letting him know that you laid up with a woman. And, it's just like, when are you going to think rationally? You know what I'm saying? Like, I honestly, I as much as I wanted to feel sorry for Sophie, I could not, because she brought it on herself. She brought it on herself. Same with Callie. Margot got both of y'all heifers wrapped around all 10 of her fingers, okay? And as much as you try to loosen the grip, even though you know that Margot is the one who framed you, you are still going to find your way back to her, I feel. If they get a season 2, I can almost guarantee you Margot and Sophie are going to end up hooking up together again. And, again, like I said, lust over logic.
Where the hell are you? You're freaking me out.
Kyle, you better not be fucking with Sophie.
I told you not to do that.
So, like, what is Sophie gonna do now? Like, girl, you literally have put yourself in a conundrum, and I don't know how you're gonna get yourself out of this hole that you have dug. Like, for real, you literally have not one but two vehicular homicides on your hands now, and it's not even clear if you hitting Margot's brother, if you hitting him, if that even really unalived him. Like, he is a drug abuser. And if, given the fact that he was high when you ran his behind over, who's to say that that actually did the trick? Like, and then you roll him down this hill and put him in this water. Like, what if he comes to from that water? Like, what if he realizes his body goes into shock and realizes that he's drowning and he really is not dead? You know what I'm saying? Like, she has done so much. And again, Sophie, she only has herself to blame. And it's like, now here you are, you're putting yourself at risk again to lose your son and your husband, which I really don't particularly think that she cares about losing her husband, seeing as how she was so ready to jump in the bed with Margot. You know what I'm saying? Like, it literally behooves me that she allowed all these things to happen. And another thing, like I said, just did not make sense to me with this show is that Margot is the person that popped Abby. It just does not make sense. They didn't even have enough interactions with one another for her to have any vitriol against that little girl to go and do that to her. Yes, granted, Abby knew that she was sleeping with Brad, but again, she could have offered her money. She's a young teenage girl. She could have offered her money for her to keep her mouth closed and been like, I'm done with Brad. I'm not dealing with him anymore. So it just did not make sense to me that she was the one who, did that. It absolutely, it would have made more sense if the pulpit youth pastor Pete was the one that took Abby out, or even Brad for that matter, or even Jill, because we knew how much Jill disliked that girl. She did not like that girl at all. And she really had no reason to dislike her because, her son ain't the saint. And that's another thing that I'm upset about. Like, why did y'all have to take Jill out before Jill found out that her good Judy, okay, was sleeping with her son? Like, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that in some ways Margot gets to get away with that. And I do like Margot, but I don't like that part of Margot. I do not like the fact that she is messing with that teenage boy. So why does she get to get away with that? I don't like that at all. And I'm not clear on if it's going to be a season 2. I hope that it is. And I hope that there's a lot of clarification in season 2 in reference to why Margot did what she did. Because like I said, we really didn't see her and Abby have too many interactions with each other. And, I'm curious to see how this whole situation is going to turn out with Sophie and her 2 vehicular possible homicides. Like, girl, like, this is so annoying. But we shall see. We shall see. But that's all I have for you guys in this video. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.